All of us old people, 52-year-old here, about to turn 53 in a couple of months, we love making statements like, these young kids today. And I'll admit, if you listen to the show, I'm as guilty as anyone. And I can tell you that when I was a young fellow, I hated when someone tried to define what my generation was. In fact, I don't like people try to define my beloved Generation X group because we're not all the same. Any more than millennials, baby boomers, or Gen Z are the same. So in order to talk about Gen Z, I figured you needed to have someone who's not only part of that generation, but someone who studied the generation at length. How's that for a long setup? Kate Foster is that person. Kate is an author and a student at Washington University in St. Louis, and she's done work for the Virginia General Assembly and as a healthcare policy fellow for the Cicero Institute. She's currently an intern with the American Enterprise Institute, and she joins us now. Kate, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Thank you for taking time to be on the show today. And sorry, but after my long intro, we don't have time for your interview. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate you. Appreciate you joining us. Okay, so first of all, anyone who thinks like me, and if you're one of those people that say these kids today, if you're one of those kind of people, as I can be, as we all can be from time to time, you're a perfect example of what is Gen Z. If you don't mind my asking, exactly what is your age?
I'm 21.
All right, 21. And Gen Z is those that are born, I think, 96 and up. Am I right about that?
About 1997 is the earliest, about 2012. So I'm about roughly in the front middle of that.
Okay. So you wrote a piece, and it's called "My Generation Avoids Work. Here's how that is impacting mental health." Now, it appeared in, among other places, the American Spectator. I read it Monday, and I'll tell you, Kate, it's a great piece, and I would urge our listeners to check it out. But you're welcome. You start in the article by talking about how workforce participation rates have declined, particularly among young people. And I do want to say, before anyone blames COVID, which certainly didn't help, don't get me wrong, but workforce participation had been declining, again, particularly among young people, since the year 2000. So that's a long time that it's been going down, particularly young people. What's the story here? Why?
Yeah, and so you're right to mention COVID, because this is really something that COVID got all of us talking about. I mean, if you look at the graph that I'm citing in there and a lot of the economic data, this huge spike downwards in COVID, and then the couple years coming back out of COVID, we're coming about to pre-pandemic levels, but it looks different now. I mean, Gen Z was born as early as 1997. I was born in 2001, which I know is the big after 2000s babies feel pretty young to you guys. But many people at my current job right now have never worked in an in-person workplace before. They've only had virtual work, or they haven't been in the workforce before. And so we're all entering this workplace in an odd post-pandemic time. And a lot of us didn't have jobs during COVID, or we had some really odd, like, make-it-yourself jobs. Like, I was an eBay seller for a year and totally loved it, but it's not the traditional workplace environment. And so right now, Gen Z is really grappling with what their life post-pandemic is going to look like work-wise. And a lot of people have a bit of an aversion to entering a real full-time workplace again. And there's different cultural narratives about how much we're going to value work and what we're going to look like as a generation in the workplace now that we're really entering it. And that's really interesting to me in my writing.
Well, and one of the things that I found interesting is, and Gen Z has made it clear, as you pointed out in the piece, that many members of Gen Z, your generation, see the working culture as a threat to mental health. But, Kate, it's been proven time and time again, that you so greatly pointed out in your piece, that one of the best things we can do for mental health is to have steady employment. Am I right here?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that we're really learning in the wake of the pandemic, after work was just stripped out of so many people's lives. But I think Gen Z is balancing two kind of important points here. I think Gen Z is really right to look at generations before us and see that, I'm working in DC right now, and there's some really intense corporate work cultures that say you need to put work before family, before friends, before that sort of indispensable human need for rest. And I think Gen Z is right in a sense to come of age and think that, I want a balance in my life. I don't work to define me and to define my relationships. And I think that balance is really important. But on the other side, an over-aversion to work and a narrative that, oh, all work is bad for mental health, like work is a slog you have to get through from 9 to 5. I think we're overlooking the benefits that work gives us in our lives that we really, really realized coming out of the pandemic, and that work has a lot of major social, psychological, and character benefits that enhance our life. And it's baked into sort of our psychology as humans. I mean, evolutionary psychology dictated that humans who did the best, who had the inclination to get up and do things, to grow crops, to hunt, to meet people, form advantageous social relationships, are the ones who survived and thrived. And it's built into us as people to seek out daily occupation, to fill our days with work. And we have a lot of great psychological benefits to doing that. The completion of tasks makes us feel good. It gives us a sense of purpose and a reason to get up in the morning. It improves our mental health. And conversely, unemployment has been shown to have really dangerous mental health consequences. And so I guess my main point of the article, and from what I've been studying, is that Gen Z should pick up and get a job and should really take advantage of these benefits that come out of work, and also realize the ability to which work can enhance your mental state. And so if you're in a job right now that really is not well suited to you, to go out and look around and find something that really gives you those benefits to the max.
And there are, I mean, I don't know about where you are, but I can tell you that here in West Virginia, there are jobs everywhere. And if you don't necessarily like what it is you're doing now, you can always change it. Again, we're talking with Kate Foster. Now, you're a Gen Zer yourself, as you said, born in 2000. That's hard for me to believe that anybody was born in 2000, but okay.
I know.
But trust me, you'll get to my age at one point and you'll say, I can't believe anybody was born in 2023. But you're a Gen Zer yourself. What do you witness among your counterparts, your peers, your friends? What do you see out there?
I think, again, I'm seeing a little bit of both. I'm seeing, like right now I'm working in DC, and so a lot of Gen Z around me are growing up in this, work. I want to get here. I want to be the best. It's very much corporate climbing, and it works really well for some people. But I know for me personally, that scares me a little bit, and I want to have a well-rounded, positive life. I think most other Gen Z around me are on that same mindset, but I think a lot of Gen Z is really struggling to get themselves out there and settle themselves into the workplace. And I think a lot of it comes out of this sort of mental health epidemic that we're in right now. It's just another big part of the article here, in that Gen Z has been called the most depressed generation. As a Gen Z, I see mental health and mental health worries all around me all the time. I mean, Gen Z are twice as likely to report depression, feelings of anxiety, or a serious mental illness. And Gen Z is also a very screen-dominated generation. I can't really remember a time without screens around me. I can maybe remember the BlackBerry, but that's about as far as I can go back, which always gets older counterparts laughing. But it really is a generation that's more anxious. We're more dominated by screens and the internet, and we're less likely to go out and work. And I think that's giving us a greater aversion to entering the real world than other generations before us. I think every generation looks down at the one after it and says, oh, they have it easy, or, oh, they're not working hard enough. I think that's the same across things. But Gen Z does have a unique set of placement disadvantages, whatever you call it.
Well, and that's a very good point, because, again, I'm classic Gen X, born in 1970. So the boomers that raised me, said, "Oh, you kids have it easy," and then I looked, we all look down on each other, and that and don't get me doing that 100 years from now. If you don't mind me asking, Kate, what was your background like growing up? What did you witness from your family growing up that kind of set your mindset?
Well, I have a boomer dad who I love so much. He's my biggest fan, who will very happily go on a boomer tangent any day of the week. But I'm from Virginia. A lot of my family's from Mechanicsville, Virginia. And so I've seen a lot of really hard, honest work around me. And so I think I've grown up being taught that this is a real social value, and that this builds purpose and it builds character, and it's good for you as a well-rounded person. And I think I'm a product of that in a sense. And so coming to DC was a bit of a crazy culture shock and a big difference. But I think those values are being lost a little bit on younger generations, and those values aren't as transferred onto the online community and on social media. But I think it would merit us to have a little bit of those values back. I mean, I don't think all Gen Z should go out and get a blue-collar job in Mechanicsville, Virginia. But I think a robust sense of a culture of work and a culture of occupation in whatever form it may be. It may be taking care of an older person, or it may be volunteering, or it may be teaching. It can be any of those many, many jobs you mentioned that are available in West Virginia, for example. But a culture that sees it as a social good and a social value and something that makes you a better person, I think we've lost a bit of that, and I personally think it could do us well.
Well, and you close, Kate, by saying basically, and I don't want to try to put words in your mouth, and if I say something wrong, you can certainly correct me. But do you feel that if young people care about their mental health and the mental health of their friends and others, that they should get off their butts and go to work?
Yeah, I think that's probably the more harsher, direct way of saying it. But I think that's the way that we can support others and love others around us. That we are in truly a mental health epidemic. I see it so much around me with younger people. And the problem is that our mental health systems can't keep up right now. There are months-long wait lists to get care for mental health. There are different providers that provide different things that may work for you, that may not. And it feels like, at least from my vantage point down here, it's overwhelming. And a lot of people don't know where to go or how to help themselves. And a big product of social media certainly is why this is the way that it is. But the fact of the matter is that we have a major mental health demand, and what we need is practical, on-the-ground solutions to help improve generational mental health. And that's really what my research is centered around. And I found an unexpected benefit in work and steady employment. And I think that a culture that encourages people to get out there and find something to do with their day and to get all these really great social, psychological, and character benefits, that whole package, that can really help this mental health crisis. And so I think it's coming out of that place of love and support and wanting to do something that pushes me towards work.
All right. Fascinating piece. And, when I read it, like I said, Monday night, I wanted to try to get you booked on the show because I found the piece to be fascinating. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule there in D.C. to join us, Kate Foster. We'll talk again soon. And thanks a lot for everything. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
All right, thanks. 23 minutes